Dancin' Dan here from SOS Radio Sound of the Strand. We got Jim Quick from Coastline. He's also known as King Tyrone with the Graveyard Ramblers. All right, Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in an area called Gum Swamp, which is outside of Laurinburg, North Carolina, and probably the smallest and rural, not well populated, and income-wise, probably one of the poorest places in North Carolina. But when I was growing up, it was a big industry town, but just like a lot of small town America over the last few decades, it's just kind of dwindled away. I left there when I was about 22 years old, moved up to Raleigh, and lived most of my adult life in Wilmington. And currently, I live between Nashville, Tennessee, and North Myrtle Beach.
So about how long have you been singing?
I don't know. I think I like to be the center of attention probably at 8 months old. So I really don't remember a time where I wasn't either trying to be a comedian or singing or whatever. I mean, I performed with church choirs as a kid, and I started messing around with local groups and stuff like that as a really young teenager. So pretty much all my life.
So did you start out playing with bands?
Yeah, I started out in high school. Matter of fact, the guys that I was in the first band with, it was a pop group called Power Play in the early '80s, and then those same guys ended up being the guys that created Coastline while we were in college. Yeah, they were my best friends in high school, and later on we kind of ventured off and did different things with different bands, and came back together and started the Coastline band, named after the railroad, Coastline Railroad, which ran from Wilmington to through Laurinburg at 0100. It's one of the straightest stretches of railroad track in its time. It was like 100 miles of straight track.
So when did you form Coastline Band?
Coastline had our first performance Labor Day weekend of 1992. Half the band was 21, half the band was 22, and just, right in the middle of college.
So how many CBMA awards have you been nominated for or won?
Well, we've been nominated for pretty much everything that you can get nominated for as far as Carolina Beach Music Awards go. I mean, we've been nominated for everything but female vocalists, I guess. The Carpenter family told us that collectively Coastline had won more awards than any other band. I won Entertainer of the Year 19 times. We won Group of the Year like 5 times, and Song of the Year numerous times, Songwriter of the Year, live production. I mean, just anything you could possibly get. We've received Album of the Year, Song of the Year. It just goes on and on. The very first year of the Carolina Beach Music Awards, Coastline won New Group of the Year, which I think was 94 or 95, around that time. And the band was just a couple of years old. We were just now getting on the scene. And then the very next year, we won Group of the Year. We've been very fortunate to being well received. Even though Coastline's a little bit off the beaten path, we're mostly original music.
So how did you get into writing music?
General Johnson kind of took us on his company back in the mid-'90s with Insight Talent and Surfside Records. He took on Coastline as a little pet project, and he told me at an early age that I needed to write and get people to come see me for the music that I was passionate about, because if I can get enough legion of fans that can come see me for what I produce, then I'm the only person that they can get that from, and that I could have a fan base that would be pretty loyal. Now, Coastline crazes have grown through the years, and it's been pretty intense. I've been very fortunate. I mean, it can either go one way or the other. It's a pretty rough road at the very beginning when you're trying to shove songs down people's throats and they're not really familiar with them. And people are like, well, I've never heard of this stuff, and they just kind of leave. But after a while, it's kind of like, yeah, man. So you just have to kind of keep grinding. What happens is you get a small base, and that gets infectious, and they're like, listen to this group, then let's go hear them, and then you kind of are well taken care of.
So do you write your own songs?
The majority of them, I'd say 80% of my show is songs that I've written. The other part is either obscure covers or songs that were written for me. I do a couple of songs that people know, but for the most part, you have to be a Coastline crazy. I always tell people I'm not a very good wedding band or a corporate party band, because if you're not a Coastline crazy, then the majority of the people won't know what's going on. So, yeah, it's pretty much, when you go to see Coastline, you pretty much have to buckle up and be prepared to hear original material.
Well, tell us about King Tyrone and the Graveyard Ramblers.
After 9/11, around October, right around Halloween, a matter of fact, around Halloween, we decided to put a band together just to play around Wilmington at local clubs and just to get extra money, just paying for tips or whatever we could get. So we named the group the Ramblers. We kind of found out there was a group in England that was fairly popular called the Ramblers. That really didn't bother me. We just felt like it needed some more of a twist to it. And I remember flipping through my parents' albums when I was little, the vinyl records and stuff, and I was like, I remember my parents loved Tyrone Davis and King Floyd. So I kind of put those two together with, King Tyrone. I thought that was cool. And then we decided it was Halloween, and so we gave it a little spooky thing to it. So we added Graveyard to the Ramblers. So it just came together as King Tyrone and the Graveyard Ramblers. And we played around for a few years with that group and kind of just was a jam band. We made up songs on the spot or played really obscure blues type songs. And it got really popular, and people wanted us to make an album. So we made an album, and I put an album together of songs that we had written while touring with that band. And some songs that the record labels had rejected, and one of those was Mama's Drinking Liquor Again, which we performed live, and everybody loved it. So we decided to put that on that album, and lo and behold, that was one of our biggest songs.
So basically, they're not the Coastline; they're a different band.
It eventually became Coastline because the business, everybody kind of went back to work and went their ways. And there was a calling for us to do some performances because of the records that we had recorded as King Tyrone. In order to do that, I just pulled the guys together that were playing with Coastline then. And so we'd do different shows. We'd play at Hodo's and play at Decker's and places like that, some of the smaller venues that would like that type of music, because Coastline will play some King Tyrone material, but King Tyrone doesn't really play Coastline. It's kind of an odd thing. So when we play King Tyrone, it's a completely different thing. It's a lot of blues and southern rock and stuff like that.
So do you have anything special that you like to sing or play?
All the songs I've written are kind of like my little kids in a way. I mean, ones that I've released that the people have taken as calling tunes. So it's hard for me to say in that regard. I would say the songs that I didn't write, I love performing late at night, and there's just some kind of connection between me and the audience on that song. It's actually a subdued tune. It's a rare song from this group down in Louisiana, and it had almost kind of like a little Bo Diddley type feel to it. The original version is really raw. It's played with a cajon and just maybe a three-piece band with like a lot of vocals. When I took it, I kind of wanted to do like a Candy Staton thing with it. But the band I had at the time really couldn't catch that groove that I was doing. I mean, I've gone through a bunch of changes in the last 27 years, and so at the time it almost came out like this weird soul rock type thing, and it just worked. I mean, even though what I heard in my head, it ended up working, and the audience related to it. And I don't know, Late at Night would probably be that one. And She Poured It On, which is written for the band by Jonathan Burton, who was the guitar player for the Manhattans. It's two of my favorite songs to play. But as far as songs that I've written, I don't know. Turn Me Over is always fun, and Calling. I don't want to jinx any of my songs. I like to give them all equal love.
Can you share some of the people that you've had the privilege to play with or you've met over the years?
Well, I always get nervous when someone asks me that because I feel like I'm going to leave somebody out. But, the ones that stick in my mind, of course, I love Delbert McClinton. He and I have gotten to be really good buddies. And I guess other than him, I've gotten to share the stage with people like Jerry Butler. He sucks the air out of the room when he walks in. He's so cool. Everybody calls him the Iceman. Well, it's true, man. He's got an aura about him that I can't explain. Golly, man, I can sit and do this all day. Anything from the Temptations to the Oak Ridge Boys. Ronnie Millsap, Leroy Parnell, John Hyatt. He goes on and on. From my favorite writers to performers and artists. I mean, honestly, I could name all these famous people, but the people that have inspired me the most are people like Danny Woods and Billy Scott. I mean, these guys were just, I don't know. It's amazing what we have in the Carolinas. It's on a different level than people even understand or really got to know. I mean, these guys are phenomenal entertainers. And Bo Schrantz and General Johnson, Jackie Gore, Craig Woolard. We got some of the most phenomenal people in the world in this industry, and it's an honor to be able to call my mentors my peers, because even though I'm a couple of them 50 years old, when I started I was in my early 20s, and everybody had been established for at least 30 years. So it's been a cool ride.
So can you share a funny story that may have happened to you on the road?
Well, most of the funny ones I probably wouldn't want to share on this radio. I can tell you some things that have been crazy. Like one time they told me to be at the Hilton in Greenville for by 7 o'clock. The showtime at 8. And when I got to the hotel, they didn't know anything about the band being there. They're like, I'm supposed to be playing. Said to be here at 7 and be on the stage at 8. And come to find out, I was supposed to be in Greenville, North Carolina. I was in Greenville, South Carolina.
Oh.
So I didn't make that performance.
Well, I always ask everybody this question. Do you shag?
I do. I consider myself an excellent shagger because I've learned to dance before I could play an instrument. And that's the truth. My mother was really into dancing. She even was a dance instructor at like the local school. So I learned to clog and shag like really not long after I could walk and run. So, I mean, yeah, I grew up with Cy Creed, who was a multinational shag champion, and Sam West, who was another one. I grew up with these guys, and I don't know. I grew up on the North Myrtle Beach scene, dancing and shagging. They didn't have junior SS when I was growing up. We had fake IDs. So, I mean, golly, I've had a whole nother life with my shagging friends. That's been a big integral part of my life. It's two different lifestyles. The beach music people and the shag people, even though they kind of rely on each other, it's two different worlds. Every SOS, I try to book as many gigs as I can around, not just because it's where it's happening, but so I can dance. Yeah.
So do you have any advice for anyone just starting out in the business?
In a position that I'm at right now, coming up on 50 years old, and spending my entire adult life doing this, I would say to the kids that are out there that are striving and doing what they do, even though the music industry is completely different now than what it was when I was growing up, the one thing still remains the same, and that is embrace the ones that understand you and ignore the ones that criticize you.
Sounds like good advice. All right, tell us, where can we find out about your play dates and stuff? You got a website?
Yeah, jimquick.com. You get everything from there. Links to merchandise, to our schedule and news and everything else. Yeah. And of course, follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram page is hilarious. It's a lot of fun. Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
And thanks for tuning into this special interview with Jim Quick from Coastline Band. This interview is brought to you by Forever in a Song. Turn your memories into music. Go to Forever in a Song. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more great interviews from Dancin' Dan's Beach Music Archives.